Hello and welcome to Our Time. We see many shows and sporting events, but who makes the performers and the sportsmen be in the right place at the right time for you to see them? Well, Terry Lindbloom is one of those. He's one of the most successful managers and promoters in the country, and he's here. Terry.
Thanks very much, Malcolm. That was a very good
Did you like that introduction?
I'm very impressed.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Terry, but it's true, you are actually one of the most probably high-profile management people.
I'm the oldest.
Pretty much everything.
I think I'm the oldest.
No, we've just played that game. Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah, but I'm the oldest promoter, you're the oldest performer.
Oh, well, that'll do.
Yeah, I've been in the business a long time. As you know, I started out as a well, they call them security guards now, but I was a bouncer.
Well, now go back before that, because you came from a very big family.
Yeah, family of 9.
Yep. Where?
Woodville South.
Yep.
Born and bred. My father had a factory. My mother was a housewife. Obviously, with 9 kids, you didn't have much else to do.
Exactly. No, see, that's something that's genuinely changed, and that's actually genuinely affected show business. Because years ago, women did stay at home and looked after the family. So, you know, hubby would probably save up to take them out for a special occasion. It's not quite the same anymore. He may belong to a social club, and the social club would book everybody in to see major shows, but all of that's changed.
Well, you didn't have much choice, did you?
No.
Back, and especially in those days.
Of course.
There was no choice.
It's a better system we've got now.
My mother was a saint. My ex-wife still says to me this day, she said, your mother was a saint. I had the best parents ever.
No, I did. Sorry, I did.
No. Well, you beat me on age. You're not going to beat me on this. I'm telling you now. No, my parents were just superstars of people, and I was just lucky to have them. And especially, I was probably there's 5 boys, and I was probably the wild boy, because I was dyslexic and fat. And I got a bit bullied at school.
I'm dyslexic too, I'm sorry to tell you.
Really?
We're matching too much here.
I'm taller.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I've got to win a few.
And thinner. Longer legs. Look at my little
I don't know about the thin part.
No, but of course, being one of the big family, I suppose bouncing around with the other members of the family.
Well, I sort of got forced into it because when I was going to school, because I was dyslexic, I got picked on a bit.
Yep.
And I was the fat kid at school. After a while, I thought, stuff this, you know. And they knew in the end if someone had to go up, they'd have to go back. And that sort of went from there. Because I'm not a naturally aggressive person.
No. But a good bouncer isn't really naturally aggressive.
No. And I train bouncers. I used to train them. Don't wear body shirts. Don't wear bow ties. Don't put a...
Yes.
As soon as you do that, you're
putting a screen up in front of you.
Get to know the clients. You know, we used to have in some of the big nightclubs I ran. You'd have a fight, and the actual patrons would come in and help you because they were your friends. The London Bobby idea. You know.
Right. That makes perfect sense though, because people that are aggressive for a reason.
Yep.
They've had too much to drink, or they're not happy with their girlfriend's gone off with somebody or whatever.
Or they're stupid.
I was trying to avoid saying
I'm not. I'm telling the truth. You know, some of the things I've seen people do, you wouldn't believe.
But from being a bouncer to moving into the rest of your career, what happened next?
Well, I had a brother, Kevin, who was
very funny.
Him and Dave Flanagan were the 2 best comedians in Adelaide.
Yep.
But Kevin could do impersonations, voiceovers. He could sing and impersonate anyone. Kevin was a superstar. If I could have only got him to Sydney, but he was lazy. But he was big time in Adelaide. Made a lot of money and squandered it.
But this was also when...
And he could play any instrument in the band.
Right, but this was also when stand-up was more or less beginning as a, if you like, an entertainment form.
Yeah. You know, I used to bring over the Johnny Garfields back in the day.
Yeah.
You know Johnny Garfield?
I do.
They were, compared to the comedians today, Johnny Garfield would blow them all out of the water.
Well, they probably had an advantage in that they could do fundamentally the same act for a long period of time, whereas most of today's comics are on telly that are well known, so they're losing their gags every time their face appears on the screen. But their material, you never get that sort of Rolls-Royce material, as Phyllis Diller used to say.
Well, the problem is they all come out of, in the old days, most comedians come out of bands. They were singers in bands or whatever, and they started to have a joke, and then it went on from there.
They started talking. Yeah. That's how I started talking.
Well, these kids today, they go to a comedy club or whatever, and they teach them, and they're like robots. And if you listen to them, you can see them one after another. They're all the same, with the same sort of... Back in our day, They used to wear hats. They do impersonations.
We're still going, remember? We're still going.
When was the last time you saw one of these young guys do an impersonation of someone? Or you just don't see it anymore. You know,
there's a couple of guys around, just more or less. You know, everything old is new again, really. Yeah. And there's a couple of people that are now starting to do sketch comedy again.
Who?
No one that specifically comes to mind, but I have seen a few. There's the Auntie Donna mob. Now, you may not find them hysterically funny in our age group, but certainly in their age group, they've scratched the surface of funny. I've named one.
That's really good. Gervais is fantastic. There's certain ones out there you go, oh yeah, you know. But there's no Peter Sellers anymore, or Spike Milligans, or John Cleese's, or...
No, because they were character people, I think. That's the difference.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And most of the comics perhaps today are being more themselves, telling their own story.
They're bland. Or they get out and swear or talk about things that aren't particularly funny.
No, although we were talking before about Matt Gilbertson, Hans the German. Yeah. Matt's very funny. He scratched another funny bone. No, you can't go there. Because Matt's a great friend of the show. He's actually going to be with Ann Wills on our 500th show, which is coming up in a few weeks.
Is that how Ann got me into this, is he?
No, but I was talking to Ann when she was talking to you about what she's doing. Yeah. And she was with you at the time, and I said, I'd love to chat with him.
See, I think the best of those sort of acts is Bob Down. Bob Down is as good as you'll see anywhere in the world.
Well, again, a character.
He's a superstar.
Plays a character.
And can sing, and is a great comedian. You know? That's just more my comedy, that's all.
Well, I think as time goes on, every generation has a comedic style, I guess. And you find those people funny, but not those people funny. But the gags that we would laugh at, today's kids don't really want to laugh at those gags. They don't see the humour that we used to see. Because a lot of our humour was sort of crushed to an English, very much an English style of, you don't say the word, you imply everything. So it's the double entendre more than just saying it straight out.
With Hans, his overall act, the whole thing is fantastic. You know, the way it's put together, and the production is fantastic.
An amazing show.
You won't get an argument out of it. But I don't think he's a bad singer. I just think there's better. If he just relied on his singing, he'd be in trouble. But it's how the stuff he does.
It's the package. He's got the package. Definitely. Like Bob Down has got the package of everything.
He's my favourite, Bob.
Okay. But let's get back to you.
Yeah.
Because you've also brought in some amazing stellar names and toured them. Let's talk about Chopper Read for a minute, because there's somebody that people wouldn't necessarily think would need a manager.
Chopper...
or an agent.
Yeah, he used to stay at my place, and I lived at Melbourne, which is a really nice area. And he used to stay at my place a week a month, right? And he used to call it home, right?
Right.
And I can't impersonate Chopper, but he was the most unusual character and one of the best characters I've ever dealt with. 23 years in jail. He'd get up in the morning and make his bed.
He was do hospital corners?
Do the whole thing. And then you'd go out to lunch and I'd have chicken and salad. And this is, I'm not joking, he'd have 2 hot cross buns, just an eclair, all that sort of stuff. That's his lunch with cream.
Was that because he never got that in jail?
No, he just ate bad food.
Oh, rubbish.
And that's all the time, right?
Yep.
Anyway, his cholesterol was 3.5. He'd never had a job, and he didn't worry about anything. So there it is. And he was fat, and he never... Some of the stuff he used to eat, I was saying, Mark, he died of cancer. You know, you think he'd have a heart attack or something. Just bad food.
You tell that lovely story about ordering a dessert.
I was up in the Renmark Hotel, the Renmark Hotel, and we're doing a gig. I forget where we were. We might have been there. And we're having dinner before we went out, and we had dinner. And when you walk in a room with Chopper, everybody looks, right? There's not a lot of people around with no ears and no expression on their face. Anyway, we finished dinner. He said, I can't impersonate. I want some dessert. I said, what do you want? He said, spotted dick. I said, I don't think spotted dick's dessert. No, get spotted dick. Spotted dick. It's good dessert. I said, you don't argue with Chopper. Yeah. He said, no, I have it all the time. Go and get spotted dick. So I know the little girl behind the counter, and she's taking orders. And she said, can I help you? I said, yeah, I want to get some dessert. I like, peaches and cream. And my mate wants some spotted dick. And she said, what? She said, spotted dick. I said, yeah, apparently it's a dessert. I didn't think it was either. She said, no, I don't think so. Next minute, Chopper's next to me. Spotted dick, give me some spotted dick. She said, I don't think we've got spotted dick, Mr. So she went out and got the chef, and the chef came out, and he said, what's wrong? He said, I just want some spotted dick for dessert, spotted dick. And he said, well, that is not a dessert. It's, I don't know, it's a Scottish meal or something like that. So they went through the desserts and they got to sticky date pudding. That's it.
That's it. Well, you wouldn't argue with Chopper Red. Just call it that for the day.
No, call it that. That's it.
But so many sporting stars you've brought in,
Yeah.
so many famous performers you've brought in.
Yeah.
How did you make those contacts? How did they know about you? How did you know about them?
When you start dealing with them, all right, and I'm a blokey bloke, and you get to know them and you get to be mates, and then I could ring him. I used to be Jacko's manager for years, and I was the best man at his wedding, but I haven't anything to do with him for 18 years, and I won't again because he's not a good time. And you know, have you got so-and-so's number? You give me so-and-so's number. Then you might bring a bloke in from Carlton. Can you get this bloke? Can you get?
Right.
And then you know them. So when you ring them up, and you get to know these blokes, and just snowballs from there. So they ring up and say, "Is this Terry Lindbloom bloke all right?" And they say, "Yep." To their mate, and next minute you get, you know.
But actually, you've actually hit the nail on the head. Is this bloke all right?
Yeah.
I'll deal with it.
That's right.
Speaking of dealing with things, we just have to take a short break and we'll be back in a tick. Our special guest on this episode of OurTime is Terry Lindbloom, agent to the stars. Is that a way to describe you?
Well, more so the older days. Things have changed, Malcolm. You know, like
What's caused the change though? Is it modern social media like Facebook? You put something up on Facebook and that's how you find somebody now?
This is one of them.
Yes. Well, that's what
They
they
don't
do.
go out.
Oh, they don't
all
go
right?
out.
You remember the old days? I could bring an act in like Johnny Garfield, and we could do 7, 8 shows in 2 days.
Yep.
There was 10 clubs at Elizabeth.
rush from one to the other.
Yeah, and just get changed in the car. There's probably one club out there now, and if you put a show on like that, you wouldn't get anyone there. But people don't go out anymore.
No, the industry has changed,
Yep.
and one of the sad changes is television because we don't have local television like we used to.
Yeah.
So if an act came over for you, you'd have them on, say, Adelaide Tonight, or
Yep.
you'd have them on the Channel 10 Saturday night variety show. 7 had all the different shows. Anne was one of them.
I'm a bit younger than that. I used to bring them from the White Walsh show and all those shows. Adelaide Tonight,
Right.
and that I was watching myself. But you know, I got the guys from the Mike Walsh. You know the acts they used to have on those sort of shows,
Yep.
and the Don Lane sort of show. Those acts.
Yep.
And they were fantastic. I used to bring in some great acts.
Well, they were able to hone their act over a long period of time, whereas today with social media, people are putting up if they're comedians, they're putting up bits of their show, they're blowing it. They've already given it away. So they've got to write new material all the time, which isn't necessarily as funny as the old material.
I've got to be truthful. I don't rate a lot of them. I really don't rate them.
Well, see, it's interesting because if you've got to sell them, you've got to believe in them, I guess, as an agent.
The kid, though he's not a kid now, the guy from Queensland, he's very good. Barron. I can't remember his first name.
I know who you mean.
You know what I'm talking about. They made a movie with him.
Yep.
He's very good.
Yes, he is.
Every now and then you get one pops out of the crowd, and he's one of them.
I keep thinking
What's
of the
his name?
English Sacha Cohen Baron.
Yeah, I keep
that's
thinking
not
that too,
him.
yeah.
No. Yes, it'll
You know
come
what I'm
to
talking
us.
about anyway.
Yes, we do.
They'll know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
There's a few around that aren't too bad, but there was a lot more genuine talent 30 years ago. Genuine talent, you know, that didn't come out of a machine in a comedy club. If you listen to their storyline, I used to go to Dave Flanagan's place, and the kids, and they'd all be doing the same thing, and it was all. It's not funny. They're talking about, you know, women's problems and stuff.
Do you think it's because a lot of that has been TV affected in that people sit at home in front of their TV set and they're looking at things and there's a comedy line pulled and you get that much out of it?
Yeah.
And that's considered funny?
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to you. So at some point you must have said to yourself, this is starting to work for me. I've got a brother who's a comedian. What are other family members?
My
What
young
did they
brother
become?
plays electric bass and double bass.
Yep.
He's probably one of the best backing singers in Adelaide.
Yep.
And they
Who
had a band
everybody
together.
wanted, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, Jay was very popular. Alan Hewitt, remember Alan Hewitt?
Yes.
Alan. Yeah, I used to bring singers in from Sydney, all right? And Jay would be playing in the band, playing bass. And they'd come up to me after, they'd say, who's the big bloke on the bass? I said, that's my brother. They said, can I have him? Because a good backing singer can make you sound a lot better. You know? A lot of people said, "You."
It's hearing. It's people blessed with that ability to hear the harmony
You
lines.
can hear it.
Yeah.
You can hear it. I can't do it. My other
You
brother
sing
could.
there and I'll sing there.
Yeah, he just come in behind, and anyone. Kevin couldn't do it, and Kevin could play drums, guitar, keyboard, the whole bit.
But was there a catalyst in the family that made this happen for you, do you think?
Well, Dad used to play the squeeze box and the ukulele because they did it from the country in the old days because they were from the Flinders Ranges. Mum used to play the piano when she was younger, and she played a little bit of squeeze box too. And Saturday nights, you remember this, the Rellies would come over and they'd put a blanket over the table and they'd play cards till about 9:30, and they'd put the blanket away and everyone was having a few West Ends, and then it'd be a sing-along, you know. And I can remember that, you know, I'd be 6 or 7 years old, you know, and
Yeah.
I was brought up on it. Then I had two older brothers that played Gershwin and all the good old music that you know, all the old Sinatra, Cole Porter and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So I was so lucky that I heard that in the sleep out, because it's still with me to this
Yeah,
day.
it's interesting you say that. Because whatever you hear as a child, whatever it is about anything, whether it's religion, music, or whatever, it absolutely sticks with you, doesn't it? So, with your whole life, with all of the unusual, interesting things you've done, and some of the other people. Now, you represent Wilsey here, as everybody calls her.
Yeah.
She's Anne to me, but
Yeah, same here.
Anne's probably had the longest, apart from winning 19 Logies, she's had one of the longest careers of a local in South Australia person. What's her secret, do you think?
Anne is, in my opinion, probably one of the nicest, for who she is, 19 Logies. She's probably one of the nicest people that will do anything for anyone that I've ever met.
Generous, yes, I agree. One of the most generous souls.
As you know,
You went with her to the Oscars one
yeah,
year.
she took me to the Oscars, and that was quite funny.
How many
because
cases did she buy to bring material back to make into dresses?
it took her 4 years to get me a ticket, and apparently about 40,000 people watched her go in. They build bleachers, and I think Spook Daddy was behind us in a limo. In front of us was Jack Nicholson, and you pull up. And I had the Hugo Boss on, and Anne said, "They'll think you're someone." She said, "Americans are stupid." So I got out of the car on the way. I'm from Woodville South. I was waving back. They were waving away.
Well, you look like a movie star.
Well, they believed it anyway.
Yes.
And they were looking for a new James Bond. And there used to be a comedian who used to come in an office and he used to put his head around the corner and say, "They call me Lindbloom." I was going to get up to Spielberg because I think he was directing the last one, wasn't he? Was it Spielberg? I can't remember.
Not sure.
So they called me Lindblom. But I don't think I would have got the role anyway. But you've got to try these things,
You've got the look, though. You've got the look.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can see that. Because, frankly, people are looking for those faces. You know, they're looking for the push, looking for the front, looking for the face.
I'm joking. I've done a few television ads and a couple of bit parts in movies that Anne Peters put me up for. Do you know Anne?
Yep.
But that was quick-lived. But I did some good ones. I did some national ones. You know,
Well,
talking.
so what do you want to do when you grow up?
A psychiatrist asked me one day, I'm not going to tell you exactly what I told him, but because you can't do it. He said, he said to me, this is a question that I ask lots of people. He said, he said, even if it's not reasonable, what would you really like to do? And if it doesn't make any sense, it's not going to work, what would you like to do? And I told him it was pretty bad, and he said, no. He said, that's pretty normal. It was imagination stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say
But if you don't, but again, if you don't have a dream of what you want to achieve, how are you going to achieve it? You've got to have a plan.
Well, this plan right now that I've got is to spend another couple of years, 3 years in the business, then get away from people.
Right, and where would you like to do that
Anywhere
exactly?
where it's quiet.
Want to go to
I'm
the
a city
moon,
boy.
or
Come backwards and come over and back.
Okay.
Victor Harbour, Adelaide
Island,
Hills.
Ireland, somewhere?
Ireland. I've been to Ireland. Yeah. I've been to Ireland. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you tired of the human race?
Because running nightclubs for years, big nightclubs.
Late hours.
And just the overall thing. I used to say to my kids, out of every 100 people, 10 are all right. I know this is terrible. I'm down to about 2. and it's getting worse. No, but look, it's terrible out there.
I've heard you say with your wife originally that the long hours, the difficulty of not being home enough broke your marriage eventually.
Cool. Oh, I stuffed that on my own. I had a good woman. It was my fault, and I have to carry that with the rest of my life.
Not a lot of men can admit that.
It was always my fault, And I hate myself for that situation.
But because you were focused on I suppose the way that we were all brought up as young men.
I was running nightclub. I was focused on the wrong things.
But at the same time, we're focused on providing. And when you find something that you are comfortable with providing,
right.
it's very easy to
true.
fall into that trap
That's true.
of not being home. Yeah, but I'm providing.
Yeah.
I'm working my socks off to provide.
Yeah, I know.
Haven't you got what you want? You know, it's of our generation. It's actually something that men in our age group have to come to terms with, that we lost a lot in life because we thought we were too busy providing, but we loved what we did. So that was an excuse to keep doing what we did.
Malcolm, that's exactly. How many times have you heard from football coaches through to actors to singers, you know, I wished I spent more time with my kids, you know? And I tried to spend as much as time as I used to take them to the soccer and football and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah.
But now your kids have done very well as well.
Yeah, both of my children have done quite well, and they're fabulous kids. In fact, my daughter's about 5'9" and she looks like a mum. She's a stunning. My ex-wife was a run-up Miss South Australia. My boy's about 6'3" with blonde hair. He looks like mum too. And Sam had his 70th birthday, and he only invited 50 people. And he got up a couple of times. Eddie compared, and Moonface was there that night too. And he said, I could have had 1 million people here tonight. He said, but you're the people that care about me, and I care about you, and yada yada yada. And I walked in with Ebba. Shane Warne was there, and Ebba's a knockout, all right. And we're standing outside because back in those days I used to have a chuff. And Shane Warne come out, and as he walked out, I kept standing in front of Ebba. Hey, Shane, nice.
Well, as a barrier, just in case.
Stay away, she's my daughter. Right? And when I walked in, all the boys from the footy show, Terry, they said, Terry, I hope that's your daughter. I said, actually, it is.
It is. Well, talking of Sam Newman, and we will. And we'll be back to talk about Sam Newman in just a tick. Terry Lindbloom is my guest on this episode of OurTime. We're just about to talk about your friend Sam Newman. He's caught a lot of flack over the last few years because everybody has opinions and sometimes you're in a position to voice them. But your friendship with him is quite special.
The thing I've learnt from Sam, and I'll just say this before we go any further, Sam's the most loyal, intelligent, brave, generous man I've ever met. And if he was sitting there, he'd hate me saying this now, because he doesn't like to show up, but he's such a good bloke. You know, if anyone had to go at Sam, I'd knock him out. He's the nicest man you've ever met.
I think the reality, though, is in life, particularly if you're in the media, everyone sort of plays a character.
Yeah.
You have to, because your private life is there and your public life is there. So it's very easy to be loved or hated, depending on what you stand on.
But that is Sam. Sam, his favourite saying is, whatever you do, Terry, be yourself. And when he comes out, all those things he does, that's himself. But you've got to realise there's a producer telling him to do this and a producer telling him to do that. And people have heard him saying, I don't want to say that. I know this bloke. And they say, no, you've got to say it, so he's got to do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're paying that sort of money, but a nicer man you wouldn't meet.
Yeah. So, you know, finding out things like this from people like you is really interesting because you're working with the real person, you know the real person, not necessarily the public figure, but you know who they need to be sold to. And what makes a good agent? What makes a good entrepreneur? It's a question that you could talk about for the next half hour, but we've only got a minute.
Just briefly, you just got to have a bit of intelligence. Most things are just, it's common sense, you know.
Is it something somebody does who isn't performing that wants to be a performer, do you think? Or is it someone who just realises there's a business here and I can enjoy this business?
No, I would like to have been a comedian. I sing a bit, but I didn't have the guts to do it, and I admire anyone that does. Being a comedian is tantamount to being a boxer, because when you're out there, you're all on your own. You can't say to the guys in the band, geez, we're having a bad night.
No,
do you know what I mean?
Can't.
You're on your own. It's the most scary thing in the world. If you're in a band, like you're in a band, you could say, gee, that wasn't very good, you know?
Well, yeah, I suppose that's how you build your backstory of how things go, I guess. It's been fantastic talking with you. Thank you so much. I've been wanting to talk to you for years, but just never made that contact before. No. So thanks to lovely Anne Wills for being in the right place. That's your place.
Thanks very much, mate.
And
That's very nice.
You bet.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. So until next time on OurTime, it's just lovely to have had your company once again. Keep yourself nice till next we meet. Bye.